Good morning, creative friends. Today we're going to make our second project in our 12 months of wholeness through creativity. And what we're going to make today is a little Matchbox treasure chest. This is a small drawer with a little wraparound band that you can decorate in any way that you want. This could hold whatever your treasure wants to be. It could be a nice piece of jewelry. It could be a Ghirardelli chocolate. It could be a little snack size M&Ms. This can be for you. This can be for your sweetheart. This can be for your kids. This can be decorated Valentine's-ish. It can be decorated in any way you want. For this project, we're only going to need 3 tools, a couple sheets of paper, of cardstock, not paper, and some adhesive, and that's all we'll need to complete this project. I am going to use my Tonic Guillotine paper trimmer, but obviously you can use whatever paper trimmer that you have. This is another style that I've talked about before. We are going to use the envelope punch board, which I told you before is a tool that I just love and use all the time for many different things. We're going to use our regular scoreboard and the bone folder that comes with it. If your scoreboard is like this one or the EK Success one, it also has an envelope template in it that you can use for doing envelopes. So if you don't have the envelope punch board, then this could work for you. That's not the way I do them, but it certainly could be. And we'll see if I can even get this back in. I'm probably not even going to try right here. But we'll be using this for our regular scoring. The other thing you're going to need is adhesive. I generally prefer my ATG tape runner. It's a dry adhesive, a double-sided tape, and it's just real quick and easy to use. Of course, you could also, sorry about that wiggle, you could also use your liquid glue. It just takes longer for that to dry. Score tape could be used if that's what you have. It's a little overkill for a project like this, but it's another possibility. You're going to need 2 sheets of cardstock, an 8.5 by 11, which actually you're not going to need the whole thing of this, but a plain or patterned, whichever you want, and then a 6 by 6 piece of cardstock. It could be a Valentine's theme if you want, or as I said, any other theme that you might want to use. I'm going to use one from this paper pad that just has a lot of different designs that I think would make a beautiful box. The reason we want to use the 6 by 6 paper is because it has smaller prints on it, and we're making a pretty small box. Your 12 by 12 paper, your patterns are going to be a lot larger and probably would not work for this small of a box. If you have 12 by 12 paper that has a very small pattern on it, you could use that, or you could actually even use another sheet of plain if you don't want it highly decorated. A cool thing about this paper pad, hopefully I'm in frame here, is that it also has a lot of cutouts and punch outs that you could use within this to decorate if you want. It's got these little cards that I think would fit on the top here. This is the paper I'm going to use. This is another one I thought was really pretty. But it also has punch outs, just little cardstock pieces of ephemera, and some of those could work as your decorations for the top of your box. So you have some options there. So let's quit chit-chatting and just get busy here and see how fast we can get this done. I know I want to get this out to you right away because Valentine's Day is quickly approaching, and if you're wanting to use this as a Valentine's gift, you're going to want to get it done. But the good news is this project is very, very quick to do. So the first thing we want to do is we want to cut our papers. The 6 by 6 paper. We're going to cut it 6 by 3.5. This one, the design kind of goes all different directions. If you have a pattern on it, you want your bottom down here, a directional pattern. You want it to face this way, and you want to cut it at 3.5 inches tall with your design here. So we'll cut that first. And we're going to use that scrap there. Our other piece, we want to cut our plain piece. We want to cut this at 5.5 inch square. So if you've got an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, if you cut it at 5.5 inches, that is perfect, because we could use this other half as a card base when we get to making cards. It's the perfect size for an A2 card. So we'll put that aside and use it for a different project, and go ahead and cut this one into our square. And the other little piece that we're going to need, this is the liner for the bottom of your drawer, and we're going to cut it at 3.25. So that's going to have to be the other direction, by 2 1/16. So we want to go just over that 2-inch line. 2 1/8 is a little too much. I'm going to cut this way first, the 3.25, so it leaves me a bigger scrap piece. So 3.25 by 2 1/16. And these are scrap pieces that we might use for our decoration later. So we can put our trimmer aside, we can put our little liner aside for now. We're going to score our wrap for our box, and we're going to score it at 1 1/8 inch. At 2 3/4 inches, or no, 1 3/4, sorry about that. At 4 inches, and at 4 5/8 inches. And we'll go ahead and burnish those scores here. And what this is, having those 1/8 inch measurements is what's going to help our drawer to slide in and out. We want this to be just slightly bigger than our drawer so it can slide in and out. So you can see how that is going to form the little box that our drawer slides into. So we can set that aside for now. Then we're going to use the envelope punch board to do our scoring and punching for the drawer itself. And so we are going to line it up at 1 7/8. Get my score tool out there. 1 7/8. Punch and score down the line here. Then we're going to move it over to 2 3/4. And again, punch and score. We're going to turn it around, and we're going to do 2 3/4, which is going to line it right up on that line. I'm going to put my head in here for just a second so I can see that clearly. I'm going to fold it just so I can see that line, because basically we're lining the notch up right on that punch that we just did. So punch and score, and then 3 5/8. Punch and score, and we're going to turn it around and do exactly the same thing. This is just a little difficult for me to see in this lighting without putting my head directly over it, but it should line up again at the 1 7/8. Punch and score, the 2 3/4, which should line up on the next line. Punch and score, turn it again, 2 3/4, which should line up right with your edge here. Punch and score, and then right over again to the 3 5/8, which should line up with this one here. And again, we're going to take and fold over all our edges here, all our score lines, and burnish those as we go. And you'll begin to see our box taking shape here in just a second. Now, the next thing that's going to have to happen, obviously, we've got to, these little flaps are going to have to be taken care of. You can do one of two things. You can just run your finger along there. I do not score them just because that measurement's going to be even more fiddly. So I don't score them on the board there. You can either do this. This is going to be the easiest way to do that. Just fold that up, run your thumbnail along, and create your score line there. And do that along each of the 4 sides. Should be burnishing those too as I go along here. And there's going to be one more tool that I did not tell you. You are going to need your regular scissors. Okay, so we want to cut out each of these little squares here in the corners. We can just cut right up that score line. I'm going to do this on the 2 short ends, and we're just cutting up the score line here to the next score line there, and turning these little squares into little flaps. Okay, the next thing, and you can see how this is going to work. This is going to fold over those little squares to stabilize our box. As we glue each of those down, and this is going to form our drawer there. Now, because we've got all these overlapping triangles in the bottom, we don't have a very neatly finished edge. You could just leave it like this if you want. You could even trim these off if you don't like the look of them. I leave them in there because it creates more stability for our box. And then you can see that our little liner piece is going to fit right down in there perfectly. The other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut a little thumb tab here so that we can pull our drawer out easily. Very easy way to do that is to again use our punch board. Just center this right underneath there and punch. That will give you kind of this V-shape notch here like this one has. The other thing that you could do is to, excuse my head here, if you've got a little round punch, this is a 1/2-inch circle, and I can use that, or it's a 1/2-inch circle, and I'm just going to put it in halfway, and again try to center it best I can and punch my little thumb notch out that way. So we are done with all of our tools and ready to glue this together. I told you this would be a really easy and short project to make. I'm going to put my tape runner down each of the openings here. Obviously, I don't want to go over that hole there. This is durable, but not quite as quick sticking as the score tape, so it's a little easier to work with that way. So we'll fold in both sides that way. We'll fold in our little tabs and then fold this end over the tab and push it down. Then we'll do the same thing on the other end, fold the tabs, fold this over, and push this down, and we've got our drawer made. We could have put a little bit more tape on the ends of these triangles too before we folded them down, but I'm not too worried about them because this is going to go over them and it's going to stick down well. So put adhesive on our little liner. Again, if you had used a patterned paper that had one direction only, like I did on this one, you'll notice that our liner is sideways. To me, that wasn't any big deal, but if that bothers you, you would need another piece of paper to do that. Okay, and the next thing, we're going to fit our wrapper around our box, making sure that we're just the right size there. Okay, so we've got our paper. As I told you in the beginning, I cut this at 3 1/2. Actually, it should be 3 3/8. And we're going to wrap this around just to make sure it fits perfectly. And looks like everything's good there. And so we're going to put some of our tape runner along both on that outside and this inside end, so that when we fold them over, and I'm folding at my inside fold on this side and my outside fold on this side, and it'll fold perfectly flat, and that will adhere both of those down without worrying about any adhesive being on the inside of here. That's another reason I don't prefer to use the liquid glue, is again, it could ooze out and cause our drawer to be glued into our holder. So see, it fits snug and perfectly inside of there, and your little thumb hole makes it very easy to pull out, and you have your project made. I'm going to do a separate video, as I need to get going this morning, so I'm going to do a separate video for decorating. You saw the pictures on the blog post, and here's this one that has some cutout shapes out of both the plain and the patterned cardstock. I put these up with foam square adhesives. This is a little tag punch, a little piece of yarn or twine. I've stamped those. So some of the things that you could use to decorate the tops of your box are, as I said, punches. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about punches. Use what you've got, get what you can. These types of punches I really thought I would like because they are very handy and easy to use. The problem is I've had a lot of trouble with these breaking or locking up. So they are not my favorite style of punch. There's also the little punches that look like this. Again, they work fine, but they take up a whole lot of room. So if you're collecting different ones, you're going to find that they're real big and bulky. This actually is my favorite style of punch. These are from EK Success, and they lock closed, so they stack very easily. They're a little more expensive than most of the other punches, but they are very sturdy, heavy duty, and work great. Again here, I've got a few others. This one obviously very big and bulky, but it could make a little banner decoration if you didn't want the hearts. Here we've got the little tag. This one also locks down, so it doesn't take up quite as much room as the great big ones, but it's also this big huge thing to make this little tiny tag there. There's an intricate butterfly. Again, a very good stamp. This is a good punch. This is a Martha Stewart one. Very intricate and pretty, but takes up a lot of room. I've got this one that's a little bubble saying that might be cute to stamp something like "love you" on, or things like them. And then this one just cuts the corners off, so you could make your own tag by just cutting a rectangle and cutting the corners off. And obviously you could also just use a pair of scissors to cut the corners off. So you could create punches like I've done on this one. You could add bling decorations, little flowers or gemstones or flat back pearls for your decorations. You could stamp, as I've done on these ones with the love and the little conversation heart. Again, it can be Valentine theme. It could be just general, that's got "love you," but thinking of you, friends forever. These are little conversation heart type ones that I've used on my example there. Here's other, you could use die if you have a die cut machine like the Cuddle Bud. You could use small tags, butterflies, hearts. Got a cross here, a couple crosses that would work. Just some different shapes that you could stamp various things in. Little strips in there, so different things there with your dies and your stamps and your inks. And of course you would also need an ink block or platform, stamping platform to do any of those. Sorry, it's out of frame there. But that's just some ideas. I'll try to come back and show you some of the decorating options later. But for now, you have a great Sunday and get your basic box made. And be sure to post your pictures over on our Facebook group. And you have a great day of creating, and I'll see you later.